died as a direct result of U.S. sanctions. It's not just theoretical. These are real people with real lives. 500,000 kids? I'm sorry for shouting, but it just disgusts me what these people in government do. And they do it through central banking and through the control of the money supply, and Bitcoin takes that away from them.
This is the sound of freedom coming out your speakers. How they playing hide and seek or finders keepers. Let me define my thesis. While they treasonous deep in the malfeasance, a grand deception, 1,000 reasons. Keeping the truth out of our reach, the powers that be. No morale for peace, just war when there's mouths to feed. Covering mouths when they're trying to breathe. A silence that speaks volumes, now the blind can see. See, they lie and deceive. Divide and conquer minds when they try to perceive what's behind the curtains that eyes can't see. Incentivized greed, desensitized breeds, gentrified streets, keeping money centralized leads to total control, to keep a hold of your soul, so you don't own but you owe. On the verge of wholeness and thrown in a hole. They really think it's all a game, I can only console and say the rain is over, there's nowhere to go. So
eyes wide open, now and always. I'm breaking out of your chains. Freedom is an option now. Believe the impossible. Wanna take our heroes, bury my faith. Stop and decide our fate. Believe the impossible. Freedom is an option now. Freedom is an option now.
we can wait on karma to make him pay, but what's the price of freedom? It seems the darkest of days brings a light in the evening, meaning the steepest of gradients of peaks and failures that we embrace can lead to the rhyme and the reason. Leak the truth and they try to delete them. Elitists is hiding secrets, I'm fleeing sirens while seeking asylum. They creep in the quiet and keep us all divided by beefing, but sheep is their diet and people compliant. By any means we keep our heroes safe. They try to clip their wings while they're flying. The road to freedom's either peaceful or violent. Fuck the peace sign, I might disappear like I'm Satoshi. Walking the silk path, follow Roger if you copy. There's more Assange and Snowden. Weather storms, you can answer Romans. If tornadoes leaving the masters beholden. With eyes open, see the devil in disguise. And keep your mind wide open, cause it won't be televised. Realize.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, Banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Okay, all right.
And we are live.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast. Following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. This is episode number 129, Listener Survey 2024. Today is Sunday, the 22nd of September, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing and guest co-starring today. It is our yearly episode where we take a look at what you, the listeners, thought the BCH community needs. And it's been a while since we've had a nice no guest episode, and I've been really struggling to fit some of these other drama topics into the other episodes we've had recently. So I think this is going to be a bit more of a low key one for the regulars, that we take a look at what's going on in the crypto scene. How you doing, Jet? What's the latest with you, man?
I'm doing good. Latest with me is not much. Still just working, probably too much. Still, like, you know, I got a friend who's starting to do cool stuff. So he's like, "Do you want to help me on this?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Oh,
but
really?
I can't make that happen.
Sucked into it. Everyone wants to be part of it, like a startup, until you're a part of one, and then your value just goes up. You know, everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's got experience. Like, he knows how it works. Let me ask him for help." They say, you know, the greatest power is saying no, right? Like, as soon as you have any relevant skills to basically anything, but especially software development, you just get flooded with people who are like, "I'll be the ideas guy." And you're like, so that means you're going to do nothing. I'm going to build it all. and then what are you going to do? Get your 50% for the idea or sales? The funny thing is they always want to do sales. And it's like, do you have any sales experience? No, they don't have any sales experience, but they're convinced their idea is so brilliant that they'll be able to sell it, but then they don't have to, because then they say, "Oh, you got to build it before I can sell it." And then, even though that's not how it works in the real world, it's the other way around. The salespeople sell all kinds of shit that you haven't built, and then are like, quick.
Thankfully, this time it isn't software related. It's actually for the video production stuff. But it's like some of it's like to do with animation, and that's completely out of my wheelhouse. And yeah, I think I just don't really have the time to dedicate, unfortunately. I've already helped out like little bits and pieces, telling them like, you know, here's the software stack that'll get you 90% of the way, and here's some cheap equipment that'll get you 90% of the way, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. The media tycoon. handing out business advice from the lofty perch of BCH podcast production. I love it. Great. Well, that shows we must be doing something right then. Got credibility now. Damn, that's good to hear. All right, we got to get our quick little announcement in. We got to shill ourselves. This is what you really need to do when you have videos. The first thing you need to do is say, "Give us money." So we've got our fundme.cash is 80% complete. It needs 7 more BCH. I'm really hoping a couple of people can just chip in so I can stop shilling it at the start of every episode, because it sometimes makes me a bit uncomfortable. Like, we do have to fund the show somehow. But I'm like, God, I wish we could just crack on without it, but you know, you got to pay the bills. So what can you do? I got to say, there's been a lot of contributors so far, though, in the sense that the fundme.cash has actually seems to have opened the door to a lot of people who weren't able to use the Flipstarter, you know.
Yeah,
because the plugin was a pain, and you could only do it with Electron Cash and stuff. Look, we got 24 donators already. Wow.
I assume like the Flipstarter plugin doesn't work on the Electron Cash mobile either, right? I feel like most people.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I feel like most people, when they are scrolling through Telegram or whatever, they're on their phone, right? So if there's no easy way for someone on their phone to donate, that's a huge barrier already.
Yeah, and once we get this Cash Connect stuff or Wallet Connect better integrated into Selene, I'm sure it's coming in Zapit and Paytaka at some point. If it isn't already in there, then that's just gonna be huge. This kind of stuff takes like so long to cook. I remember we were talking probably a year and a half ago about this kind of stuff, right? Being like, you know, this stuff's all gonna come. There's gonna be wallet. Like now we have Wallet Connect, we have Cash Connect, even the version after it, but it still hasn't been rolled out everywhere. And these things just take so long, which is why people who think, oh, my coin is just going to pivot and catch up to your coin on feature X. It's like, no, you're not. It's going to take you 3.5 years to get that one feature if you dedicated all your resources to it, which you're not, and by then your competitor already has the next thing and the next thing, right? So it's just like people have a very hard time of understanding projects moving forward simultaneously. They sort of imagine in their mind like, oh, I can just everything else will freeze in time and we can catch up. It's like, no, to catch up you need to be going at the same speed and then faster than the other projects, which are usually or often bigger, better funded, more network effect, stronger foundations of tech, better marketing, more interesting to whales. Like there's so many reasons. But anyway, we're doing a pretty good job, I think, as BCH of hacking our way up through the leaderboard. But this is the same problem that we have just with the bigger coins than us, right?
Did you see there was, I think it's like Texas Capital, something. I posted about it in the Bitcoin Cash Telegram group. There was a dude who I like 2 days ago saw followed a bunch of Bitcoin cashers. And he is a trader from what I understand, but like that clear that like there wasn't any, he has not put out any tweet that was like public support, but all of a sudden out of nowhere, he starts following a bunch of BCHers. There's people in his comments that are like, when he's like, what price charts are you looking at? They're like LTC and BCH. So there's definitely like outside eyes finally. And I think some of that is coming from like the conversations across the aisle kind of thing, which is nice. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to see. And I think it's about damn time.
Yeah, it is. But momentum is rising. That's for sure. I can't even keep up with the Telegram groups anymore. Like as obsessed as I am, for quite a long time, I was able to stay on top of all of it. And even if I was just skimming past it, when I had a spare moment or something on those major groups. But now it's getting to the point, not only the actual main BCH channel, but even the podcast Telegram. A lot of the time I'm like, check my phone, there's like 80 new messages or something. And I'm like, wow, everyone's loving it. There's enough different. Yeah.
There's a threshold for me. It's like 50 new messages I'll catch up on. Anything more than that, I'm just like scrolling as fast.
Yeah, but I think that's just the sign of a growing ecosystem, right? Ultimately, we're not going to be able to keep up with like you already kind of can't, but as things get more and more and more crazy, it will be impossible. And for listeners of this show, they should be self-aware that this means the show is increasingly going to become my view of what's going on instead of, or I guess our view of what's going on, instead of like the authoritative story of what's happening. But there will be a solution to that, which is that there'll be more and more alternatives, which we're seeing, right? The BCH Foundation news is another fantastic one. And you can look on there and I see stuff in there that I'm surprised about, I didn't know about. And sometimes I cover it on the show, sometimes I don't. More often I don't, because it's already redundant or it's what they're focusing on, not what we're focusing on, kind of thing. So, and there will be more and more channels cropping up that will all be paying attention to different parts of what's happening, So I think that's going to be a real phase shift for the BCH community that for several years has been quite insular, right? And everybody's felt like they had a good handle on it, but yeah, you just see new names popping up that you're like, I don't know with this guy, and he's coming in with how do I plug this into my app, or how do I do this? And then that's just cooking away. And then at some point you're going to discover, oh wait, BCH is integrated over here, or we've got this new app is kicking off, or this new community of people have suddenly become really interested in BCH. So it needs to be like outward facing, we need to you just do a good job and you put it out there, and then the world comes and finds it, because at a certain point you can't keep up with the demand to proactively engage like one-on-one, really, right?
Yeah. Although I am curious to see, like there was definitely some brain drain through all of the splits, but like, yeah, I like the momentum. I like the pace of things now. It's nice that I can't keep up with stuff. I remember back in 2017 sitting in the Discord chat and like reading every channel and every message and trying to have gone like, yeah, it's nice that I don't it's bigger than just, the 200 people that were there or something.
Yeah. You just learn to let go. The world is a very big place, and that's probably also where it's going to catch us by surprise too, I think, because that's the nature of an exponential. Like, you're on top of it until suddenly it just kind of slips away from you, and then whenever we suddenly just, like, there'll be a moment maybe in the next year, maybe in the next 2 years or something, where it's suddenly like some major conference is like, we're having a BCH not day maybe, but like a whole booth or something like this, and we'll be like, who is this? Like, why are they suddenly interested in BCH? Why is this now the top focus or a big focus of what they're doing? They're going to have a whole setup which is all like made by people that nobody's ever heard of, who are suddenly, billing themselves as BCH experts or something like that. It's going to happen. Yeah,
it's going to happen next year with like the Peitaka guys. They'll show up at another anime convention, and that convention will already have a BCH booth. And they'll be like, what the hell?
I'm looking forward to that. Shout out to Jomar and the team at Peitaka, because they've been posting. I love those photos. They post these. We've shown them on the show a couple of times, but they keep doing these different events they go to, and like, it looks really fun. They set up a whole booth and they're onboarding people at these not necessarily that crypto related events, right? But then people are just enjoying it because they're there and they're kind of in the spirit of it, right? They're shilling BCH obviously, but they're finding a way to make it a part of what's going on. I mean, ultimately that's how crypto wins, is it just becomes a kind of a side part of everything. It's like the internet, how, once upon a time internet was for computer nerds, and then it was for video games and I guess porn, and then it kind of, over time, it suddenly just became everything. Social media, news, finance, like whatever, chatting
more
to your
porn.
Friends. Yeah, more and more porn. Exactly. And it's the same with crypto or with BCH. It's just that's just how we're winning. But I think because I've now noticed that we're way over the event horizon as far as I'm concerned, in terms of like politics and stuff like that. Like, when was the last time you heard someone say, oh, is crypto going to be banned? Like, that was such a big FUD for more than a decade, right? But it's probably been at least a year. Like, anybody who said, is crypto going to be banned? Like, there wouldn't even need to be, no, it's not. You don't even need to say that now. Nobody's even asking that question.
I think there's still a little bit of that with like the US election coming up. Like, I see a little bit of that, people fear mongering about
Kamala's going to wreck us here.
But yeah, good luck.
What would she do anyway? It's too late. It's too late. She can't go to war with crypto. She's going to have too much on her plate, even if she wins.
And what are they like? They also have departments that hold crypto, right? So if the government banned, they have their own mess to clean up before they start coming after the smaller fish.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think if it does feel like we've won in that sense. Obviously we haven't, there's still a lot of problems to go, but given that there was so many years of, Bitcoin's going to be banned, crypto's going to be banned, we're all going to blah blah blah, like that FUD persisted for years and years and years, even after it wasn't really that realistically viable, and now it's just over. It's because crypto's relentless. It just wins every day while people aren't watching. That's kind of the point. Okay, speaking of which, we got the price gone up a little bit. USD $341 and 45 US cents for 100 megasats. So we're up slightly on the price. We're at rank 15, which is good. We've been in that 16 to 14 range for quite a while. If we can move out of that, that'd be good, but I'm not holding my breath. One BTC sat buys 185 BCH sats, so we're flat there. And one ETH buys 759 megasats. So we're down slightly. I just want to move on from this. We don't have, okay, I got to say, as we'll see in the listener survey, listeners are not loving the price section, so we might need to shorten it down. But let me tell you that the mempool.space BTC Explorer was reporting yesterday and today still that the backlog for blocks is under 100 blocks, and fees have been 16 to 35 cents. All demand has just died on BTC because now it's all just those op return tokens that people are trading and actual demand, like they've just pushed away demand so many times that the market is just learning, don't transact on BTC. It's going to be a marketing coin, as Imaginary Username always says, and that's it. And they've pushed it away so many times. So I'm feeling increasingly validated or encouraged about my prediction that there's not going to be a mega super cycle, or even there'll be some bull run, but it won't be that big. And everyone's just going to be like, what's going on? And it'll be like, this isn't used for any, nobody cares. Everybody has moved on to other coins, and the other coins on their own don't have enough momentum to really build a whole surge yet. But maybe by next cycle they will, you know.
I'm curious what the deal is with like LN. Was there any reason why like the network capacity just fucking plummeted all of a sudden?
That was apparently fake news. I tweeted this week about Joel Valenzuela, Satoshi bless him, was out there slandering the Lightning Network with like this graph that showed that somebody had just basically rugged a lot of their liquidity, because you got to have the coins in there to transact it, which is one of the problems of it. And then it just went from 5,000 BTC down to like 2,000 or something. It was this huge drop. And I retweeted it saying, well, it's dying, obviously. And then some people came in the comments and said, oh, this is fake news. Like they had some other stats site which showed that it was different. But then I wasn't sure what to believe, because this site was obviously made by BTC people. It wasn't like a hater site that was made to show the Lightning Network sucked. It was literally them trying to get their own stats. So their stats might have been wrong, or it might have been the other way around, that the stats were right and the other sites hadn't caught up yet and figured out that the liquidity had dropped. So I was not sure whether maybe that was fake news.
Okay.
But either way, I felt vindicated, because I was like, well, it's going to die. Maybe it hasn't just yet, but this is it's going anyway.
I think the original graph came from Bitcoin.com, because I saw later.
I don't think so. No, it was some lightningstats.com or something like that.
Yeah, but so graph comes from website, Bitcoin.com puts out an article about it. Then Joel takes the article, screenshot of the graph, puts out a tweet. Because I saw Corbin like follow up with Joel's tweet and be like, come on, not even a little
credit, like reference. Yeah. It's from bitcoinvisuals.com, which honestly looks like one of those most maximalist things. Lightning Network, height, difficulty, Bitcoin node, Bitcoin D. I'm not seeing anything here about the Puel multiple. They've got a bit of chart hocus pocus here. Like, I'm not seeing much about BCH or any other coin. I think this is just... Yeah, I'm pretty convinced that basically this wasn't like deliberate FUD. Maybe it was unintentional FUD.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up was because, like, where are the users going? Because my thought was like, okay, they're actually using LN. Like, they're actually, keeping up with their word. And especially with that clip.
No, of course I know.
Especially with the clip of Trump, like, trying to buy a burger or whatever.
Oh, man. I didn't even watch that. I was just like, I don't have time for this. Trump failing with Lightning Network and just embarrassing the whole crypto space, because the BTC guys, like, it's like how big can the hoax get? It's coming apart in front of everyone's eyes at this point. We did the hoax video, like 2 months ago, and they're still trying it, but they're trying it to an audience. It's just going over like a lead balloon now, because it's just like, it doesn't work, bro. You're telling us this is the future. It fucking doesn't work. You can't make it work for 10 seconds for the president of the United States or former president. What's going on here, right?
Yeah. At the end, he's like, oh, did it go through? Like there's no...
Not sure.
Yeah.
There's no resolution.
Yeah. And we just need, like, okay, now that we have this really influential guy who has a visual example of what the user experience is like to a complete newcomer, give him Selene, have the same experience, And I bet he'll do a little dance at the end. Like,
I love his dances as well. To Trump, what a guy! Like, he's been, this big businessman in New York City for his whole life or something like that. You think he would have like picked up, a few slick moves in there somewhere, right? He's always at these celebrity parties and like whatever, but he just has them. It's like, it's kind of adorable. I got to be honest. I laugh every time I see it. It's so unique too. Who else does that? It's like the Trump dance, right? Nobody else has ever pioneered that dance. It's like Beyonce, the Trump version, Instead, there's a bit less like hips, and there's a bit. He's put it in the hands instead. Single ladies, it needs to be like single. I don't know, single something. Yeah, right. Well, on this theme of disinformation, we've had a bit of Bitcoin hijacking still underway recently. Greg Maxwell, who is, of course, one of the most known saboteurs of Bitcoin and Blockstream co-founder and so forth, suddenly cropped up on Reddit petitioning the admins to get control of r/BitcoinXT, and was granted sole control, which he then made one of his mates a moderator. His version of events is that he's interested in preserving history, which is really his way of saying he's going to enforce the censorship and propaganda narrative there like everywhere else. Of course, this is a fairly small sub, although I found I was subscribed to it. And I've not looked at it in forever, but I must have been subscribed since 2017 or whatever, right? 2016. And 17,000 subs, and he's no doubt busy purging and getting rid of whatever unflattering information there. Now, this r/BitcoinXT sub is not the most central communication platform for the BCH community anymore. But the fact that this is what he's coming out of the woodwork to spend his time on just goes to show that the hijacking attempts it's just relentless, isn't it? It's just, when are they ever going to fuck off? Like, they're not. They're going to keep trying this propaganda and just any way they can, right?
Yeah, I can't see Greg specifically ever not doing this. Like, even if at some point he's completely outside of cryptocurrency, he'll just be doing the same Wikipedia shenanigans that he was doing 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But it's just another reminder to the community: don't trust, verify. Until we are the global reserve currency, it's going to keep it. We already saw it with the RBTC thing a couple months ago, right? Now we've got this. It is literally relentless. Anybody who reads Hijacking Bitcoin and then thinks, yeah, okay, I checked the references, everything checks out, but I'm still not sure. You can still see it happening today in front of your very eyes, I think. So, I mean, yeah, it's just another reminder to stay alert, and something that the community needs to be aware of. But luckily now, yeah, conversation has diversified into all these other channels, and that's the way it should be, right? That's the way you resist a censorship attack, is you route around it with enough other alternative channels. And the bigger the community grows, like I said, the more of those channels will pop up, and they'll distribute across different platforms with slightly different subscribers, and people will be paying attention to different things. The important information still gets to everyone, but it's just harder and harder to stop, right?
Yeah, I'm not concerned at all about like censorship at this point. I feel like the communication channels are pretty well managed by, well, people that have been involved for 7 years now. So I think we got a good foothold on the things like, yeah, a good foothold on the things that are important to like progressing. The only thing I do I'm concerned a little bit about here is like, yeah, losing the history. I don't trust for a second that this won't be an attempt to rewrite the history rather than preserve it. So I do.
Well, I guess, like there's been suggested, guys, we should make an archive and have a historical repository and all that stuff. Like, well, one reason to do this show is that it creates, another historical reference that people can go back to. So it's pretty hard to rewrite the narrative if you can just go, look, here's in 2021 where we were explaining that blah blah blah, all the stuff you did, like but yeah, there's always going to be attempts to hide and get rid of that. But I think it's one of those things that the community would love to do, but we just don't have the bandwidth. Like somebody/someone can come along and do that if they're really passionate about Bitcoin history and everything. That, we've done what we can with the podcast, and there's other people out there who've done great articles with compilations. And if somebody actually just went and archived all of that and found a way to distribute it on IPFS or whatever, it would be awesome. Somebody who's a real history buff would absolutely love that if you had the time to do that. But yeah, otherwise it's going to get slowly erased.
Yeah. I mean, even with the, this is a bit of foreshadowing for the audience here, but even with this podcast, if we don't get to something, the week that we see it, maybe tweets get deleted.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Just well, that's why I put all the screenshots on the slide usually, right? For that very reason, which is that, I mean, you might just have to trust us, bro, if the tweets have been deleted, but they were there, and we weren't inventing them at the time, so it kind of rests on our credibility. But it is what it is. Although there's a certain extent though to which history is always rewritten. Like it's like a sieve that information just goes through, and the most important things retain relevance, and a lot of the other stuff, like for crypto nerds who want to dig into all this, they can find it out. But today, if you learn about BCH, as soon as you get the idea, okay, it was hijacked, there was some censorship, and the narrative got changed. Do you really need to go and read the 500th post? Although, on that point, though, to be fair, I've had several people say to me that they sort of switched from BTC to BCH, especially a couple recently, that it was because they looked back at some old posts and they saw the difference in how the BTC community was talking about Bitcoin. And I think especially as things go off the rails in the BTC community, where they're now they're just fully captured. They're like, we've got the banks, we've got big money coming in, Michael Saylor's a hero, never spend your Bitcoin, hodl, we're going to the moon, $10 trillion. Like that was already the case, but that's just become the only narrative. Anybody trying to do anything else is just marginalized. And slowly some of those people are realizing wait, this wasn't what we signed up with. How did we get here over the last 6 years?
I think some of these people did sign up for that. They just didn't realize it at the time. Like they didn't know what they were signing up for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was just that the BCH community could see the trajectory and they just couldn't. Sometimes people are sitting. It's like that meme. I love that meme of the guy standing next to the waterfall, and he says, "Hey guys, watch out for the waterfall." And the people in the boats that are going over the waterfall are like, "Fucking conspiracy theorists! Where's your tinfoil hat, bro? Like, oh, if there was a waterfall, we would have seen it." And that's just exactly what it is. But he's just standing on the shore watching as they all fall to their death. Yeah, that's kind of the same thing. Okay, speaking of falling to your death, community comment of the week comes from BCH Autist.
What a transition.
Yes, December 23, 2023. Quote, in a discussion with Hodler-Naut, Mr. Hodl, and David F. Bailey of Bitcoin Magazine. So this was clearly in some debate with some BTC people. Quote, some of us Bcashers think that BSVers have infiltrated ranks of BTCers and may go for a fork. Their BSV ship is sinking and BCHers don't want them, and we're poor anyway. Maybe they also don't want us. So they went to BTC where there's plenty to plunder, end quote. And then quote tweeted this on September the 11th with quote, called it, smiley face, the fork is called Fractal Bitcoin, end quote. So it turns out that, of course, we've observed on this show that there was that whole segment of the BSV people that went into inscriptions and got really excited and are now actually apparently driving most of the traffic on BTC. But they just managed to completely wreck a functioning in quotation marks chain. Like BTC was doing fine for how it was, and they accelerated the demise so much. once they got in the back door, it's like those people who get into a a house, they're squatting in a house and they just trash everything. It doesn't matter how nice the house is, doesn't matter how long it had been nice. As soon as they get through the front door, things just are way downhill, right? So there's this new thing now they've got called fractal Bitcoin. So BSV is obviously wrecked and basically done. And then BTC is now also just completely useless and nobody really cares about. Even the digital gold stuff is done. So what they've done is they've launched a new split. Basically, it's not a split though. It doesn't have the UTXO set, but they changed Bitcoin Core code a little bit to pre-mine 50% of the coins to themselves. They reactivated OpCat, I guess, to show that it could be done or whatever, and then made it merged mined with BTC. This is by the Unisat team, who are some of those BSV guys who are then in Inscription. So they're going to crash land a third Bitcoin split, basically, right? They already did it. They split off to BCH. BCH initially didn't go so well. Now it's turning around, but they were a big part of why it sucked to begin with. Then they split off into BSV. That sucked, and they torpedoed that. Then they've kind of wrecked BTC a bit, and now they're gonna fuck up their own one on fractal Bitcoin again.
So what's the economics of this? Like, the only reason this would work is because it's merge mined, right?
I think that they just know that they can't do an actual UTXO split. Like, the barrier is just too high, and they'll just be immediately poor because, one, nobody will care, and two, even if they did, everyone would just dump. So that their price would just go to zero, basically. So I think this is I don't know, what are they pre-mined 50% of the coins. So it's just going to be them trying to, like, it's just a scam. It's just a scam. But it's so funny that every time they get it wrong and they fuck up Bitcoin, they never learn. They never think, maybe we need to start listening to some guys who have a functioning Bitcoin, like the BCH community, or even the BTC community. To their credit, they were not going to take over the world with their 1 megabyte blocks, but for what it was doing okay. Michael Saylor could buy and sell. The community they had could trade a bit on Coinbase. Now it's barely even that, right?
Yeah. The Michael Saylor being able to buy and sell being a metric is hilarious. That got me off guard.
Well, he just bought a whole fresh stack. There was celebrations about him buying another. His average buy price I saw was $39,000 and something. So he's way in the money. But his strategy is just like, if the price goes up, buy more. If the price goes down, buy more. So he's just doing a dollar cost average, except with billions and billions of dollars. I don't know how he can even get as much money as he does. Like, surely at some point his ability to just scam more people is going to dry up, right? It has to. There's absolutely no way that he can perpetually get these funding rounds or sell off his stock or whatever to investors, right? When does it stop? When does he just I can't raise any more money to buy Bitcoin and put it in cold storage?
What do they do? Like, what does the company do? Where do they get all this money?
Company. Well, they don't make shit, right? Like, they were just a losing money company that made some kind of really crappy enterprise software that had a couple of customers or something like that. I don't know the details, but it's like, by now the BTC position is like 99 point something % of all their economics, and just
shit.
The company is just like a shell for the scam. Like, that, I'm sure they still have some software. It's like the most thinly veiled front of all time, and that's why everyone was celebrating, like, oh, we already got it on the stock exchange, by basically MicroStrategy being a replacement bet, for BTC, buying BTC with your NASDAQ account or whatever.
Interesting. I wonder how many crypto people want to be financial bros. Like,
a lot of them, right?
Yeah, didn't quite work out on Wall Street, so hey, there's no barrier to entry here.
I guess. I mean, I always think that it was so well timed that you remember we did, was it episode 2 or episode 3, and we did Wall Street Bets versus Wall Street, the GME stock thing. Like that was a turning point in financial history, that social media had got to a certain enough circulation in society that the hedge funds just, well, they ended up getting control back and rigging it again anyway. But they, you know, the it was like Xerxes, you know, even a god can bleed. Like the hedge funds lost control there for a little bit, and it created a lot of the hype. I think it just set the tone for the decade of the 2020s being more sort of crypto and social media driven, I think.
Yeah, and I mean now it's like I always see like the Wall Street Silver and Autism Capital folks on Twitter. So I think there's definitely like a culture shift there. I wonder what Deep fucking Value's doing.
He was going off again recently. You saw in the Roaring Kitty is his Twitter handle, which I didn't know about before, but he just hadn't posted in years, and then he came back and he did a couple of weird streams where he like hyped it all up, and then he came on stream and then did it like some couple of weird things. I don't know, had some ketchup or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly, but he did some weird streams after posting, and everybody went ballistic, and then everyone was watching the GME price was going crazy. You know, everyone's like, is he buying? Is he selling? Oh no, our leader is back or whatever. I don't know how all that worked out. I didn't follow it closely enough. Let's have a look at the yearly to date chart. Yeah, so if you look at the yearly to date chart, right, GME has been $16 down to $10 from Jan to May, and then it spiked from $10 to $48. This must have been when he was hyping everyone up a couple of months ago. And then it crashed to $19 and then back up to $46, and it crashed because everyone was like, oh, if it gets to $80, he'll be a billionaire or something like that. So that was the narrative.
That's a weird, like, I mean, I support people making money, but to be like, yeah, I'm buying the stock so he can become a billionaire is weird.
Well, it was just a funny thing. Like it gave a narrative for people to jump on, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name? Roaring Kitty lost $200 million today because the price went down $10. What balls of steel he has, and then wow, it went back up, and now he's just made $400 million in 24 hours or whatever, right? People love that kind of stuff. You can easily recirculate that on Reddit and write a fluff piece, news article about it, and it just gives an emblematic figure for people to be like, oh, I understand that this GME stuff is, you know, there's real people making and losing money, basically. I don't know. Anyway, that the BSV are gonna, that fractal Bitcoin, that's not gonna last. That's not gonna be a thing at all. But just had to bring it up here because I thought, wow, this is crazy. Hats off to Bitcoin Cash Artist for correctly calling it. And I tried poking the BTC guys about it as well too. I pointed it out to Mr. Hodl. I said, hey man, do you see this? Like, we called it yet again. And he was busy like in his fantasy land of like, nobody controls BTC. There's nothing we can do about them. They're just scammers, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but you could be smart about these things and like say, hey guys, these guys are trying to fuck up our coin. Let's like socially exclude them or something. But then it just comes back to, oh, BTC is decentralized. There's nothing anyone can do. What do you mean? Like this whole learned helplessness that they're in. Anyway, it is what it is. Things are going as expected over there. Okay, well then we've got the ETH community. Things are also falling apart for them too. We've got a clip here from Bankless where we can hear the Ethereum community begin to wonder if their L2-centric roadmap is actually that great of an idea after putting several years and all their chips on that bet. So let's have a listen here. What's the name of this guy? I can't remember what his name is, but anyway, some
Max.
contrarian guy, Max, that's his name. Max, contrarian guy in the ETH community. This was a couple of weeks ago now, but he sort of finally made some waves, broke through the narrative, got on Bankless to say this. Let's have a listen.
Engineering stack to tackle those things.
Max, if part of your idea is that Ethereum is kind of, the roadmap has kind of gotten off course, I'm curious. I mean, you've been in the space for a long time. Like, when do you think that happened? Why? And like, how?
I think we've been searching for meaning and we found the wrong thing, basically, since the merge. The merge was kind of a huge sigh of relief among core devs. And we accomplished something amazing and huge. And then there was a letdown, adrenaline started to drop, and we kind of took a step back and then ended up coming back to the table and deciding on the wrong thing to prioritize. So I would say since the merge, we've been prioritizing. It's not that these changes are bad or that we shouldn't do these changes. It's that there's a finite amount of resources that we have as an ecosystem. There's only so many things we can work on. And I feel we're not prioritizing the right things.
Okay, and so like just for since the merge, I would say, this is from my vantage point, but I want to make sure I understand what you mean. But like from my vantage point, the thing that Ethereum has prioritized is like making L2 blob space cheap, essentially making L2 transactions really cheap. And that was sort of like the main priority, getting blob space out the door. Like proto-dank sharding, all of that has been the main priority since the merge. That, of course, has been successful from the perspective of now L2 fees are incredibly cheap. Is that the thing that you're pointing to and saying like, that's good, but it's just like not as important as other things? Is that what you mean when you say we've gotten off track?
Yeah, I think we've achieved that. And at the same time, because we waited so long to do other things, we have a completely centralized builder market. The relay market is looking incredibly centralized as well. We have a lot of areas that are becoming derelict because we have not given them attention. And so we've achieved one thing, which is making blob space really cheap, which by the way, I think is a good thing for optimistic rollups more than it is for ZK rollups. And so I would call this part of the roadmap that we've done so far a optimistic L2 roadmap, not a ZK L2 roadmap. And it's certainly advantaged one more than the other. And so fees are actually cheaper on the optimistic side than they are on the ZK side right now, which is weird because ZK is a superior technology. So I think we've let ourselves be captured by people who, there's a core dev team that works at one L2. There's another guy who worked on 4844 who works at another optimistic L2. We're the ZK L2 people, and all this nowhere to be found. It's all optimistic L2 people pushing the roadmap in a direction that helps them.
Well, what does that sound like, eh? We've got the L2s, the core devs are being influenced. I think we've got a bit off track here, guys. How did that happen? We were all asleep at the wheel. It literally is just the BTC and BCH story re-emerging in the Ethereum community because, as we've explained on this show many times, the L1 is actually the way to go, but you need the UTXO model for that, which Ethereum doesn't have. So as a result, to cope with their account model limitations that they can't fundamentally change, they've shifted over to this L2 model, and then all the L2s have now been captured by investors and so forth. And all the traffic and network effect has spread onto those. And as a result, things have kind of fallen apart a bit. Obviously, the inflation is increasing once again because their grand plans for the merge and the burn have not really gone exactly the way that they hoped. And Solana has been really putting the fear of God in them, basically. There's been more and more in the ETH community that you see the Solana a top 5 coin, the ETH price is not doing so well, and the Solana guys just say L1 everything. And even though that has its own problems for them, they've done good enough that they have started becoming a major issue that the ETH community has to really discuss. Like for a couple of years, there was all, oh, these are just the ETH killers. It's just another ETH killer. Nothing's actually going to kill ETH. But Solana is no longer being talked about as one of the many ETH killers, but an actual threat, essentially. So, yeah, I think obviously crypto just has to fail on every single other option before it finally figures out Bcashes were right the whole time. But you can just see the same thing happening over and over and over again until people slowly learn these lessons, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know anything about Solana, but is that also going to, like, let's say ETH does kind of fizzle out here. I mean, I think it'll be harder for people to leave ETH than it would be like even Bitcoin maxis. Maybe not though. It seems like they're less trouble. Okay, so let's say they all just migrate to Solana. What's to say like it's just going to happen again there, right?
Yeah. Well, probably. I mean, I'm not an expert in the Solana tech, but every time I look into it, it's like this has a lot of buzzwords in it, guys, and they have. I don't know exactly how it all works anyway. Like it's not a UTXO chain, but it's also not really an EVM chain. Like they have their own SVM or something, and I'm not sure how they changed it, but they kind of made it mostly compatible, but not entirely, I think. And they have some weird like 1 second blocks or something like that. And then Anatoly, who's the main guy, is like, no, we can just have blocks faster and faster until you hit like the speed of light at like 200 milliseconds or something. I'm like, how would this even work? Like, what kind of blockchain is having a block every 300 milliseconds? Like, doesn't that defeat the whole point of a blockchain where the block, extends over time so that you can package up transactions? But I mean, this just goes to show how I'm out of the loop on whatever it is they're doing. But their chain like goes down and they have to restart it. So clearly, 400 millisecond blocks is not the answer to everything, right? And they just have tons and tons of spam, basically people trading whatever these meme coins, which is fine, but I don't think it's anywhere near global reserve currency, and it's already just like drowning in its own tech issues.
What do you think is more likely? Like, do you think that Ethereum is actually getting like maliciously captured, or do you think that it's more of just like there's too much complexity and people don't know how to manage that?
Yeah, I don't think it's a big sort of organized plot necessarily. I just think it's inevitable that the technical reality started out with the narrative of, oh, we'll just scale on layer one, we'll just ignore these stupid Bitcoin maximalists, etc. Like Vitalik was like, no, I've got a better idea. They cracked on in that direction, and it seemed to work because the block size war slowed Bitcoin down, and then a lot of people migrated over to ETH just because they were fed up with all the infighting because it was the number two. So then they got loads of traction for that, but they mistook that for we're actually doing everything right. And then at a certain point, they got a bit stuck with how many block size raises and stuff they could do because they were on the account model. And then they kind of had to rewrite the narrative. Remember, they were going to do the beacon chain and like 64 shards or whatever. That all got sort of quietly like shelved because it was too much work, and the merge became, the thing that was going to save everyone, even though that didn't actually help scaling at all. And then, the burn was really exciting and everyone is excited about that. But the whole point, like there's all this stuff that was like sounded good, but was not actually attacking the core problem. And so in the meantime, the free market doesn't wait for anyone, right? So everybody started cracking on with these L2s, and then the investors were like, oh, this is where the excitement is. So they put the money into the L2s, and then once the L2s had some more clout, that inevitably, attracted attention, attracted devs, and before too long, the L1 devs are thinking, you know what, let's make things a bit easier for L2s. L2s are sounding pretty good right now. And then, of course, that's what Bankless have been at the forefront of. It's exactly the same. It's like Peter McCormack being the voice of Sauron on the, what's it called? The Mouth of Sauron. Was it the Hand of Sauron or the Mouth of Sauron? It's the Mouth of Sauron, right?
I have no idea.
In the Lord of the Rings. Anyway, you know, he's the voice of the regime, basically, right? And then it's the same thing with Bankless. Like, they're like, oh, L2s are the best. Wow, we're doing so much better than these Bitcoin guys. Look, we've got this great ecosystem. And then here they are thinking, fuck, like, did we pick wrong? Are we going to have to change up the narrative and then memory hole, or somehow rework our opinions without looking like we just followed, you know, like we didn't see this coming. I saw this coming. The PCH community saw this coming. Of course, we don't have a big enough voice for anyone to notice, but nevertheless, this kind of stuff's pretty predictable, right? So, yeah, I don't think it's a giant plot. I mean, they are somewhat. There is maybe a bit of a sort of plot and shenanigans with the Infura, who the company Infura and Consensus are those two companies that I think it's called Consensus that run like MetaMask and a lot of the nodes. So there is a bit of like control going on there. And then they have the ETH Foundation has a huge fat stack of coins that now that it's staked, I guess they can just stay rich pretty much perpetually, right? So there's definitely elements of it going off the rails. But the whole L2 thing, I think, is bigger than that. It's just time couldn't wait around for these nonsensical plans, and so cloud drifted to L2s, and now the L2s are just basically parasiting off the L1, because at a certain point, and I think, did we mention this on the show? Maybe we did, or maybe we didn't get time, but there was one L2 that then split off. They were like, okay, we've got our own traction. Let's just cut the cord, and we're just going to be our own L1 now, which cuts to what people are saying, you know, where they're like, L2s is just somebody else's, you know, it's just somebody else's layer one, right? Because the L2s eventually realize what are we even getting out of all this? Like, we have to submit all our transactions and pay money to ETH to put it on the base layer. And the whole idea is that they will inherit, in quotation marks, the security. But that doesn't really matter if you just have one fucking centralized node, basically, the sequencer, which is packaging up all the transactions. At a certain point, you're like, why are we even running this like fast? Why don't we just get rid of that, save a lot of money, and none of our users are going to notice any difference? So what's the problem? Right?
Well, back to spreadsheets.
Yeah. But I think this is just something that we can all observe and see how the crypto community has lost its way. And you have, you know, David Hoffman, my favorite midwit in all of crypto, sitting there with a puzzled look on his face, like, where did this all come from? But he's going to be absolutely shocked in a couple of years when he finds that BCH is rocketing up the leaderboard. But he will, of course, pretend that he never hated it. Or luckily, I'm going to have the Twitter receipts. So good luck to him with that. Looking forward to 2027. Okay. Next up in the crypto scene this week, we have Iggy Azalea and Eric Wall. So they were going to have this debate at Breakpoint, which is this Solana conference, on yesterday and the day before, the weekend. And I was giving my moral support to Eric because, you know, we've dissed him on this show, and he's somewhat of a, you know, frenemy of the show. But I predicted on Twitter that he was going to get absolutely cleaned up by Iggy. And my reasoning was very simple, because the debate was, are meme coins a good or a bad thing? And Eric was taking the bad side. So he was, you know, would try and argue, okay, we don't really need these. Crypto should be serious and, you know, change the world financial system and stuff. And Iggy is having her mother coin, which she basically just talks about ass a lot and just posts pictures of her behind and then generates hype that way, basically. And I thought that would just be just a crushing argument, basically, because if you have Iggy and Eric in high school, they're actually about the same age. Like Iggy would have bullied the hell out of Eric in high school, and at the level they're communicating on about crypto, that's going to be the same dynamic, right? And that was actually how it played out. Like they had some back and forth on Twitter, and it started out being looking like sort of manufactured drama that they had created, and they were both saying, making claims about what the other one had said in DMs and stuff like that, and who knows what was actually said. And it seemed like a bit of manufactured drama to drive interest in the debate. But then it started to get actually kind of nasty. Like Iggy made this video, which she made a couple of them, where she was like reviewing clips of Eric talking in different crypto talks, and then Eric was retweeting them, but he was getting wrecked in these tweets, and he's now since deleted them, which is probably a good move because it was pretty embarrassing for him, really, where Iggy was like basically just insulting him as this, stupid little crypto nerd, and making all these kind of sexualized like jokes. Like it was really brutal. I can't do it the same way she did it, but she said, like, can you imagine going on a date with this guy? With the clip of him playing, like explaining how Bitcoin is an organism that adapts to like whatever. And she was just like, I would shoot myself if I was on a date with this guy, kind of thing. And she had some other friend of hers there, like laughing along with her in a thick Australian accent. And it was just like, yeah, Eric wouldn't last 10 seconds in an Australian high school, but Iggy would have dominated in that environment. So that was basically the dynamic. Anyway, so Iggy is just wrecking Eric on Twitter. And if Eric can't win on Twitter, he's definitely not going to win in real life. But then the debate, which I was excited for because I was going to review it on this show, we've done debate reviews, but then it didn't even happen because Iggy got to Singapore to do this conference, and she like basically canceled the whole debate because she wanted to have like, I don't know, burlesque dances or something involved, where she was going to like prove her point in quotation marks that meme coins and just, random shit is more powerful by putting that into the debate, by having like dancers come up on stage or whatever and doing some twerking or something, to appeal to the lower end of the IQ segment. And then Eric, the organizers were like, yeah, that's a bit unfair to Eric or something. And so she said, okay, well, I'll ask Eric. And then Eric agreed to it because I guess he was like, yeah, actually, this would be pretty funny. And then in the end, she just said, okay. Then the organizers came back and said, this would be too viral. And it would basically make their whole conference look like a joke if this became the known thing from Breakpoint, was Iggy Azalea doing like striptease or something there, which would have been great. It would have got a lot of attention. They were right, or she was right, that it would have got a lot of attention. And she was like, well, my job is to get attention for my meme coin. That's the whole thing you asked me here to talk about. So I'm just proving the point. And then they said, no, you can't do that. And so then the whole thing ended up getting cancelled. So maybe they'll do a rerun or they'll find some other venue or something like that. And it seems like Iggy and Eric then they posted a photo like hugging as well. So they obviously met in Singapore and maybe smoothed it over a little bit. But yeah, I didn't realize until we were prepping this show that Eric had actually deleted some of those tweets of him getting absolutely wrecked. So anyway, Iggy Azalea has become the breakout star of crypto this year. On episode 118, we talked about her trying to debate Vitalik, which she lost pretty badly, but Eric's a different kettle of fish. She had his number, no problem, What did you make of it? I just think this is important because this is what crypto going mainstream really looks like, right? Someone like Iggy Azalea suddenly spending all day tweeting about meme coins to millions of followers, right? This is it. This is mass adoption.
Yeah, I don't really care. Like, I'm glad that it's happening, but this isn't like not. I don't have interest in pop music or like not like or this kind of genre drama. This isn't something I normally pay attention to, crypto or not. So I'm glad that like it's got more eyes on crypto, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I don't know. I feel like these things have a lot of weight, and I kind of want them to be part of the historical record, so that when people go back, like I was talking to someone about, we did that episode with I did that. I don't think you were on it. We did the one with NFTs when Elon put out his NFT. He made his tweet of NFT. It's verified. It's guaranteed, and the little spinning golden ball thing. And he made that on Twitter, and then suddenly it became like one of the top tweets of all time or something. And then that was like a huge moment that the world was kind of like, okay, crypto is here and it's real. It's not just or even if it's a joke, that's elevated it out of the realms of dismissal and ignoring it and pretending it's going away. Like joke was a bit of a step up, and that's the same thing here. Like crypto is just going to crack on whatever you're doing. So whether it's Iggy Azalea getting unable to twerk on stage at a crypto conference or not, that's a lot more crypto than Iggy Azalea having no idea what crypto was, which she probably didn't 2 years ago, All right, let's get on to the listener survey. So we got 22 responses, which I was a little bit disappointed in, honestly, because we had 44 responses the year before. So I guess only the hardcore wrote in this year. The show has grown, but clearly people were less interested in in filling out the surveys. I didn't make a big deal and advertise it, except announcing it on the show. And I do that deliberately because it means if you're not actively listening to the show, you won't know about it and you won't write in. But anyway, we had 22 responses, some of the same questions mostly, so we can compare to last year, and some fresh ones as well too, relative to the zeitgeist. So just to recap, last year, the big theme that we thought was BCH maximalism, right? That it seemed like the community had really united on like just a rising sense of BCH is the one coin and we're going to win that way, right?
Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, let's get into it. So question 1, did you complete the 2023 podcast survey last year? 14 answers out of 22 responses, 63.6% yes, no, 7 answers, 31.8%, and no, but I only started listening in the last year, so didn't know about it, 4.5%. So really, according to this, we only had one respondent who didn't do it last year. So it's basically the same set of people. I think you got the wrong graph there. That's the graph from 2023.
Son of a bitch.
And then we got
the
one from 2024.
Share this tab instead, please.
Yeah, boom. All right, so yeah, basically the same set of people who've been listening to the show for a long time did the survey, and shout out to anyone who did. Actually, that's really cool of you. Relative to last year, where we had 27% of people who were only started listening in the last year and didn't know about it. This year, we've only got that one response, that 4.5%. Okay, I'm male. 19 responses, 86.4%. Female, 1 response, 4.5%, and none of your business, 9.1%. So congratulations to our first ever self-identified female listener. I hope you're enjoying the show. But this is a small win, I feel like, because I think I said last year that the way we'll know the show is growing if we see a bigger diversity of demographics, right? If we start seeing a slice of female listeners appear, if we start seeing the spread of ages also diversify more, it was heavily in like 25 to 40. If we see that spread out more, that would also mean the show is growing, hitting a broader appeal. And I think that's a small sign that we're getting there, but it is still mostly guys. Okay, I'm in my, this is the age question, 20s. 3 responses, 13.6%. 30s, 7 responses, 31.8%. 40s, 4 responses, 18.2%. 50s, 4 responses, 18.2%. 70s, 1, 4.5%. None of your business, 3, 13.6%. So no teens, no pre-teens, but relative to last year, which was dominated by 30s and 40s, nearly 2/3 of respondents. This year we had 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s also grabbing a big slice of the pie, and also, yeah, a couple of people that didn't want to be identified. So, yeah, what do you make of these first few points here, Jet? Do you think we're seeing a little bit more demographic diversity in the show as it's grown?
Yeah, I would. I think it'd be interesting to see kind of like cross-platform stats compared with this too, because I think we are getting, especially with the shorts, like teenage viewers, but I don't think they're ever going to fill out a survey, right? It's just not.
True.
It's not. There's no dopamine that they get back from it. So
yeah, I guess.
But
I guess
this makes sense to me. I'm kind of surprised by the, like, who's the 70-year-old or who are, yeah, but.
Well, I think, I think might be my boy Richard Mullins. Shout out to him.
Oh, okay.
If he's listening, but he was, he would have been in the last year. We had one 60-year-old and one 70-year-old or 70s year old in the mix there. So, I mean, yeah, BCH is for everyone basically, and yeah, it's good to see it reaching a broad audience. Okay, we've got I have been in Bitcoin according to your own definition since 2010, 2 responses, 9.1%. 2011, the same. 2012, the same. 2013, 5 responses, 22.7%. 2014, 3 responses, 13.6%. 2015, 1 response, 4.5%. Same for 2016, same for 2017. 2019, 2 responses, 9.1%. Same for 2020. And 2021, 1 response, 4.5%. So a bit of a spread, but still kind of dominated by, like, probably nearly 2/3 is from 2010 to 2014. So I think that's also just the most dedicated listeners who like that this is a very hardcore kind of show, and who would also be willing to fill out the survey, maybe. But I think I said last year that we're going to see the show taking off once we see more of those 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 crowd. Clearly we're not breaking through to them just yet, right?
Yeah, well, hasn't been like a whole lot of hyper bull runs, right? So
yeah, makes sense. It's just the long timers, mostly. I have BCH only, no other crypto, 9 responses, 42.9%, and BCH plus some other crypto, 12 responses, 57.1%. Nobody has crypto but not BCH, and also nobody has no crypto at all. So this is basically consistent to last year. Last year it was about the same ratio, 39 to 61%. This year it's 42 to 57%. So that's kind of interesting, over time. Maybe that's the golden ratio, right? 4 out of 10 BCH maximalists, 6 out of 10 multi-coiners, and that's the ideal mix for a community. I don't know, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, over the years, just how much there's any kind of fluctuation. I think we'll probably get some years, like, depending on, well, yeah, I think we'd get some where there'll be, I don't know. It's hard because it's the Bitcoin Cash podcast, right? But
yes,
I can see there being a time, like, if we have one clip that goes viral or something, and then assuming those people do become subscribers and do the listener survey, then I could see this being like a pretty volatile chart year over year.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, I could see that if BCH outperformed the market massively, everyone's faith in BCH would just go through the roof.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it would be like 70% BCH only and 30% non-BCH. Or conversely, if the whole market rose and BCH just got, like a viral news story or something like that, then, but without outperforming the market, then maybe we get a surge of fresh people who are multi-coiners, but are not, BCH only. I don't know. This ties into the next question, which is, besides BCH, I have a bag of tick all that applies. BTC 6, 31.6%, ETH 7, 36.8%, LTC 1, 5.3%, AVAX and BSV 2, 10.5%, Monero XMR 7, 36.8%, USDT and USDC both 2, 10.5%, BNB 1, 5.3%, something else 4, 21.1%, BCH only, who cares about that trash, 8 answers 42.1%, and XRP, ADA, Cardano, Solana, Doge, eCash, DAI, ICP, and I'm a no coiner all got 0%, basically. Or they all got 0%. So relative to last year, it seems like last year the most commons were BTC, ETH, and Monero in a sort of third. This year, Monero and ETH are the top two, and BTC has fallen into third. And then last year, we also had more of a spread of other coins. We also had more responses, so that makes sense. But Cardano, Solana, Litecoin, Doge, we had 2 XCC respondents last year, etc., but not this year. And the stable coins are also pretty stable. Some users, but less. What do you think? What do you make of this?
The no XCC holders, but still BSV holders kind of surprises me. Like, why still hold BSV at all? It gets out of the bag.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, it's too much effort to just dump it out of my cold storage, split the coins, maybe unsplit coins. That it's like, I'm not gonna fuck around with my cold storage setup or something. But yeah, I'm also surprised. Like, I don't know. To me, BSV seems deader than ever, basically. But
yeah,
we've still got some believers. So I don't know. You can always write into the show if this is you. Let us know what's going on. What's the story? What are we missing here? Very, very open to hear about that. But I think we would know as well too. It's not like we've been on this show like, BSV, blah blah blah. Like, we had Joshua Hensley on. We followed a lot of what happened with Craig Wright. Talked about HODLocker. Kept an eye on the guy, but it's just not going anywhere. These guys are now in BTC. Now they're doing fractal Bitcoin. Like, all the energy is just drained out of it. Calvin's on his so-called holiday that he'll be, doesn't impact his commitment to BSV at all, but also his team is taking over his Twitter feed and he's never going to be heard from again. Craig is on the run from the law in Thailand. Ryan X Charles is making meme of the week, mocking him. Like, what? Where's the... I don't know. Where's the benefit? Monero's my biggest... Not surprise exactly, but Monero is clearly, coming up more on people's radar. And I think it's the Joel Valenzuela theory. Like, people need to switch to working P2P currencies, and Monero and BCH are the only two. And some people are going to, well, obviously the listeners to the show like BCH as well. So it makes sense that people are sort of solidifying their position in those two coins, I think.
Yeah, that's the only one that in my mind, like, still gets a completely, they're cool.
Yeah, the only legitimate ally of the BCH podcast. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I don't have any at the moment, or maybe I do, but it's just such a pain to sync up the node. But yeah, that's it. I think it's good to see. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate the current state of Bitcoin Cash's community and progress? Starting from the bottom, a 3, 1 respondent, 4.8%, a 4, 1 respondent, 4.8%, a 6, 1 respondent, 4.8%, 7, 4 respondents, 19%, 8, 7 respondents, 33%, 9, 1 respondent, 4.8%, and 10, 6 respondents, 28.6%. So this means that 60, 65%, 2/3 of, like, nearly a third of listeners said 10 out of 10, and 2/3 are basically represented in an 8+ out of 10. And if we have a look relative to last year it was similar. A couple people put in 3, 4, like one person each for 3, 4, and 6, but people were heavier on 8 rather than 10. So there's been some migration. So basically, I think our top end has shifted up a little bit. Like, people are pretty happy, I'd say, by this metric, don't you think?
Yeah, I every time I see someone rate something 10 out of 10, I'm like, why? What do you mean? There's no room for improvement at all? I don't believe that. But it's nice to see, like, just, let's see. Okay, so 22, 7, 8. 7, oh, way less. Okay. 50%. Yeah, okay, that's good. I would say that is really good. I would say people that are saying 10, drop it down to 9. Like, because that shift is still good, but don't.
Well, it has to be realistic, though.
Yeah.
It has to be, like, relative to what is realistic. You can hit a 10 out of 10. Relative to, are we the global reserve currency? No. Oh, okay, therefore it can't be a 10. Like, no, I think I put, maybe I'm this person who put 9 or 10. I don't know. I think I was like, yeah, we're crushing it. We're giving it 10. What I want to know is these people who put 3 and 4, we had a couple of those last year as well too. What are they looking for? Like, again, if this was you, feel free to write into the show and give us some more detail as to what's going on there, because it's like the opposite of the 10 problem, right? What more do you want, guys? Like, the community is growing, the price has been up, not killing it, but it's been up. Things have been harmonious. There's no splits and infighting. There's loads of development. There's new apps starting. I don't know, like, where are we catastrophically failing, basically, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what I voted, which is unfortunate.
10. You voted 10.
Maybe
on this show, like,
I might have.
All right, but yeah. Anyway, seems like, okay, things have not surged to all-time high. Again, I think this would be heavily influenced if the price pumped massively. So suddenly everyone would be 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, really happy with their investment. But seems we're doing well.
For the people that did vote 3 or 4, I'm really curious. Like, did you go to Bliss? Have you gone to St. Kitts?
Well, we're going to see the Bliss questions in a minute, so okay. maybe we can tie that in there. Okay, next question. Are you in favor of Jason Dreisner's VM limits chips, including the Big Num addendum, importantly, as discussed in episode 122? So 11 people, 52.4%, said yes, lock in November 2024 for May 2025 upgrade, please. 4 people, 19%, said undecided, still hangs in the balance for a decision by November. 1 person said, no, the concept is good, but needs more time and discussion. 0 people said, no, adjusting the VM limits or big nums is a bad idea. 6 people, 28.6%, said unsure, need to read up. And 1 person said unsure, but don't care either way, 4.8% there. So basically half of people are like, let's do it. And then the rest are basically split between undecided and need to read up. So,
which is probably the same thing, right? Like, Undecided
no.
because not all of the testing was done when they did maybe look into it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. No, but I felt like the difference to me is unsure need to read up is like, I might not even know what this is.
Right.
Whereas undecided still hangs in the balance is like, because that's basically yes, but as opposed to don't know, right? Because then you have nobody voted like this is a bit like we shouldn't be doing VM limits. And nobody said, or one person only said the concept is good, but it needs more discussion. So the undecideds are like, we want to get this in. It's just a question of whether or not we should, whereas unsure is like, don't know enough to have an opinion.
Okay. Makes sense to me. I think.
But this is pretty strong support, I'd say. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like last year, if we compare to last year, we asked about Bitcoin Cash Ortis chip to algorithmically adjust BCH block size. Well, that was doing even better. That got 70% yes. And then the other 30% was split between unsure and, the concept is good, but needs a bit more work. So, I mean, I feel like Abla was a slam dunk, though. Like, that was about as, fuck yes, let's do this, as we're going to see the community get.
Yeah, and that's easy for everyone to understand, too, right? But big ends, people are like, a number's a number. Why? What do you mean we need bigger numbers?
VM. The numbers are too small. It's like, what do you mean? It's in the computer? The numbers are in the computer? It's like one of those moments. Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously for anyone who's undecided, yeah, you can read up on it. Actually, we'll be doing one more episode with Jason Dreisner later this week as well, too, because he really wants to, he's going to start his media blitz. It's cutting it close to the line. It's going to be, October, all the approvals need to flow in, right? But yeah, I mean, they've been putting out some good work on it. The testing suite's all there. I mean, I feel like it's had a lot of work. I don't know, how are you feeling? Are you feeling? I'm feeling like I'm not quite swayed to like I'm not putting out a statement for it yet for the podcast, but I feel like if I put a couple of days in and did a deep dive on the latest testing, it might put me over the line.
Yeah, I think they're cutting it close, but I think they're putting the work in to get it done for November, or like to lock it in for November. So I feel pretty confident with it. Like, oh my God, focus. All right. I think I went from really being like, maybe wait, to they have my support now, because as far as I can tell, like, they're putting the work in and they know more about it than I do. So
yeah. I mean, not everyone's going to be an expert on it, but obviously the whole point of the chip process is to be confidence building. And I feel like we sort of seem to be past the point that there would be a split, or that there would be a significant amount of people who are upset if it got in. So in that sense, I think the risk has, like, it's the job, the risk has already been minimized. So I'm a big fan of that. The counter argument, the reason still to be conservative, is we cannot sort of risk a bug like at all, because it would shake the confidence in the network, and then we'd be in a bit of a mess. Like, do we do another chip, and does it take a whole year to then fix the problem? Or is there some kind of emergency fix that we coordinate, or something like that? So it's more just about having the I's dotted and the T's crossed.
Yeah,
really. But I think if I'm in a scenario where there's no chain split, I'm not super worried about that, I got to say, because I feel like if there was a bug that was an obvious bug, everyone would just get on the same page to fix it, right? If everyone could get on the same page to do the upgrade, and everyone agrees it's a good upgrade, if we needed to fix it, we could. So
it's not like there haven't been bugs in Bitcoin before, right? Like,
yeah. Like, I don't think I understand the argument for we want to seem professional and stable and well managed to the outside world and all that. But I think the vast majority of the world has no idea what's happening in BCH. So even if there was some minor bug and we just patched it, it's not like our reputation is not so big that it's gonna turn into a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And people ship bugs on ETH and shit all the time, and then they just fix it, and everyone goes, "Okay, they're devs. They fixed the bug," and they just crack on with it. So I'm not deathly afraid that our reputation is going to suffer even if we did put in a bug, as long as it didn't turn into a drama. Like, oh, some people like the bug and want to keep it, or some people think we need to ossify so we can't fix the bug, like which wouldn't happen for us. So anyway, I think there's pretty strong support here. Okay, we got a new question. Which of the following BCH apps have you used? So this got 18 responses, so a few people just skipped out on this one. So each option has two options, which is once or twice to try it and also use it regularly. Okay, so BCH Bull, 5 people each for regularly and tried it out, which is 27.8%. BCH Guru, 6 people, 33.3% tried it, and 1 person, 5.6%, uses it regularly. A Fifth of Gaming, 9 people, 50% of respondents tried it, and 11% use it regularly. Cauldron also, 9 people tried it, 50%, and 5 people use it regularly, 27.8%. BitGree, 8 people tried it, 44.4%, and 1 person uses it regularly, 5.6%. And TapSwap, 7 people, 38.9% used it once or twice, and 2 people, 11.1%, use it regularly. I thought this was a really interesting addition to the survey because we didn't have anything like this last year because the ecosystem was still too small, right? There weren't enough cool, compelling, like projects. I mean, I guess BCH Bull was doing all right, but it was much less developed. BCH Guru existed, but they didn't have live stuff shipped, right? Just the minting. A Fifth of Gaming and Cauldron was probably not really that usable. Same with BitGree. TapSwap was maybe kind of slightly usable, but it just goes to show, like, according to these stats, Cauldron are doing the best. Not only are they tied for having the most people try it, but they're also tied for the most people using it regularly. So they have both a high interest rate and a high engagement retention rate. AFOG is the second most popularly tried, but it's less used than BCH Bull. What do you make of these stats?
I'm kind of curious about using Cauldron regularly, because I don't, right? I don't really trade like at all. I mean, most of the time, that even BCH Bull, I'm like just breaking even over 3 years now. Like what? So I'm curious what are you excited about on Cauldron? Like, what are the tokens that are like, hell yeah, this is a good project, I want to support this? Or if it's just trading, meme coins and stuff like that for now. Because I know there's the Furu stuff.
Yeah, there's Furus. There's the Zapit token. It's been pretty popular. The Cauldron socks, so you can cash those in for your socks. I've done that. That was awesome, actually. There's a Fifth of Gaming have launched a token. Disclaimer, I bought some because I want to support that project and because I think they've got a really interesting method for monetizing it and so forth. XLV has been up there for a while. I don't really know what that is though, but it gets a lot of trades going. And now there's this one MBull. I don't know what that is, but it's got 100 BCH of liquidity. So somebody's putting some cash in there. Like Furu's only has 14 BCH of liquidity. AFOG 18, XLV 4, and then MBull just has 100 BCH. So either some whale is pumping that one or something. But yeah, I mean, it sort of makes sense to me that people like Cauldron a lot though, because BCH TV, also shout out. Beachad doing some great work there. It makes sense to me that people like Cauldron because it's familiar. You know, they've used what's called DEXs on other chains, so it's a simple thing to just get involved in, right?
Yeah.
Has broad appeal. Like people can do it to speculate. They can do it because they want to get in on a new project. They want to farm some tokens or whatever. Yeah, it makes sense to me. There's reasons to go back to it in terms of checking on your liquidity pools and so forth. And I know, Luke Pryor especially is so excited about Cauldron. And I think he's right to be, because it's the kind of thing, if that, like we've seen BCH Bull get a lot of TVL locked, but if Cauldron starts getting a lot of TVL locked, like that will really get notice outside of BCH, because everyone can instantly get it. There's a DEX with massive TVL. Instantly, everyone would think, okay, something must be going on here, right? Not only is BCH being transacted, but whatever the token ecosystem is really thriving if they are also having a good amount of TVL, right? Anyway, just to say that, if you haven't, try out and maybe use a bit more regularly if you're interested. BCH Bull, BCH Gurus, AFOG, Cauldron, BitGreen, TapSwap, because they're all great projects, and I recommend all of them. This list might grow significantly by next year. I don't know. We'll see. It might become unmanageable at some point, but interesting to see. So at this one was not. We didn't have a one like this last year. Okay, then we have the same for the wallets. Which of the following BCH wallets do you use? So again, you have once or twice and regularly option for all of them. Selene, 5 users, 23.8% once or twice, and 12, 57.1% regularly. Cash and Eyes, 5, 23.8%, both once or twice and regularly. Paytaka, once or twice, 12, 57.1%, and 2, 9.5% regularly. Zapit, once or twice, 8, 38.1%, and regularly 3, 14.3%. Bitcoin.com, once or twice, 3, 14.3%, and regularly 13, 61.9%. Electron Cash Desktop, once, 3, 14.3%, and regularly 17, 81%. Electron Cash Mobile, once, 5, 23.8%, and regularly 2, 9.5%. Flowy, once or twice, 4, 19%, and regularly 1, 4.8%. Stack Wallet, once or twice, 4, 19%, and regularly 2, 9.5%. Other non-custodial wallet, 3, 14.3%, and I only have custodial credits, 0%. So I have to say, first of all, good job. Literally nobody is using custodial wallets that replied to the survey. Big win there. Absolutely love to see that. Secondly, Electron Cash Desktop, by far 17 responses, the most regularly used wallet. And I can see why. It's a bit of a power user wallet, which is the same demographic as our survey results. And it's just so good. It's got so much of what you need. It's so useful. And if you're stacking like a decent amount of BCH, you're almost certainly going to be, paying attention to that. But otherwise, good to see a bit of a breakdown. Selene, I'm glad people are like half of respondents or more are using that regularly. That's very validating for the work we've been doing on that. I hope we can improve significantly over the next year, but that's great. Cash and Eyes getting some users. Paytaka and Zapit both getting people like trying them, but not maybe sticking with them as much. And Bitcoin.com still being used pretty regularly. I guess, again, they just had such a lead in the community in terms of the features and the build out. They still have that shareable link, which we haven't replicated in Selene. What do you make of this?
The Bitcoin.com wallet stat being as high as it is actually surprises me, because like for the past probably year now, I've tried as much as possible to move to Selene and Stack, like at least on mobile. I fucking hate the mobile Bitcoin.com wallet, and I don't want to use it. I don't care about the shareable link. I don't like. I get I'm not the demographic for that shareable link feature anyway, but that was a very clear decision for me to make the switch.
Well, me too. I'm also not using it. I think maybe I have it just as a just in case backup, but I don't want to use it. I really don't want to. And I would guess, if I had to, that maybe in the next year we'll see this like plummet off a cliff. Basically, the problem is that Selene, Cash Knives, Paytaka, Zapit, they're still a bit, they're still cooking a little bit, right? They still haven't just been around long enough with a good full built out feature set and reliably won't have a bug when you really need to show someone, BCH, and you don't want it to fuck up. Like, even if it's just a 2% or a 1% chance of that, you still have it in the back of your mind, and that over enough transactions that plays out, and then it puts people off a little bit. I know we have that with Selene users, and so we're really looking to improve on that, obviously, but partly it just takes time. A few edge cases get found, we fix the bugs, some of the core code that's used to make transactions and sign transactions and find the right UTXOs just settles down and stops being touched as much. And the Bitcoin.com wallet have had that for years and years, whereas Selene and some of the others maybe haven't, So, I think I was also a little bit surprised that they were still regularly used at those rates. But I think, that'll fall apart once the competition improves a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only way I could see Bitcoin.com keeping their percentage up here is if they, by next year, have full support for cash tokens, which I don't think they're going to have.
I think they might. I honestly think they might. I think they might be.
Do you think they're quietly cooking
looking into that? I think so. I think so. Like, it doesn't. Like when we had Corbin on the show, he wasn't fully convinced. He was kind of like, yeah, we've seen this happen a lot with SLP and the various other things. But as time goes on, the case for it only gets stronger as momentum builds, And like we saw, like people are using, Cauldron quite a lot, right? None of these other, TapSwap is a cash tokens thing, and BCH Guru kind of is a cash tokens thing. But BCH Bull, AFOG, BitGree, they're not cash tokens projects, but Cauldron is still up there. So that the interest is there. Like, people obviously need a wallet to transact with, right? So I think they might. I'm not going to be surprised to see the Bitcoin.com team deliver more for BCH in the next year than they have in the last several, for sure. Well, not for sure, but that's my expectation. I just have a bit of a feeling that's going to be what we're going to see.
I hope you're right.
We haven't been having splits.
Yeah,
I think the credibility is rising, and the belief that we're not going to fuck it up again, basically. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, but only well, these are two questions. Let's just do them together because they're kind of a pair, right? So it's on a scale of 1 to 10. Rate BCH Bliss, but the first version is if you attended BCH Bliss, and the second is if you did not attend in person and you watched the live streams or surrounding content. So for the in-person attendees, we had 6 responses. 1 said 4 out of 10, 16.7%. 3, which is 50%, said 9 out of 10, and 2, 33%, said 10 out of 10. Then for the non-in-person attendees, 1 person, 7.1%, answered, and this is from 14 responses. 1 person answered for 1 out of 10, 4 out of 10, and 6 out of 10. 2 people, 14.3%, said 7 out of 10. 8 and 9 both got 4 responses, 28.6%, and 1 person, 7.1%, said 10 out of 10. So, I was really impressed by this because, firstly, I felt like everyone basically who attended in person had a fucking great time. Like, really didn't get negative feedback on the ground. And I'm sad to hear that 1 person only gave it a 4 out of 10. again, feel free to write into the show and let us know what's wrong. But certainly in the moment, I didn't feel like we were having that, and afterwards we didn't really get a lot of negative feedback. But what impressed me is that the non-attendees I thought might have been much more negative, because a lot of the stream was just like dead time. You obviously don't get the benefit of being there in person and all the stuff we were doing, the social events and so forth. But it seemed like people still enjoyed it quite a lot. Like nearly 60% of people, or over 60% of people, gave it an 8 or more out of 10. And then, one person said 1, so maybe they ended up sitting there watching the stream for ages, being like, "Where's the videos?" But I think even the fact that we just did a bit of surrounding content, we put the talks out afterwards so people could watch them back. Like maybe that got us over the line there. What do you think?
Yeah, I can understand being upset at those live streams. Like most of it, not most of it, but there was a lot of dead air, right? And I remember even reading the chat, people being like, "When is this gonna be live?" Well, there's a schedule on screen if you just want to take a quick peek. You don't.
But we didn't fully stick to that even as well. Like we were actually pretty close.
Yeah.
To be fair, we did put the schedule up, and it wasn't like when there was supposed to be stuff, there wasn't, basically. So in that sense, I think we did a good job.
Yeah.
But compared to like if you were there and you're outside, you're in the corridor, you're chatting to people, you're talking with the speakers or whatever, like it was just mint. But then if you're on the live stream, you kind of need to be half distracted doing something else, because if you're just sitting there waiting for it, it just gets so fucking boring so quickly.
Yeah. And the live streams did have a couple audio issues too, right? So, or like even like lighting wasn't the most ideal and this and that. But I think the edits, like things got cleaned up quite a bit.
Yeah, shout out to you, by the way, for doing all the work that you did on those. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So if you voted this one or the 4 even, like, and it was the live streams that upset you, go check out some of the edited content, like, because live production is really hard.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We're not running the Super Bowl here yet, but it's a thing we'll improve on, and hopefully when we're later on doing live streams or what have you, like, maybe that was a bit of a learning experience for us, I feel like. But I'm impressed that maybe the recorded content carried us a bit there, and I think it goes to show that like we had a high quality of talks. A lot of those were really excellent, and yeah, I guess the fact that we even just pulled it off, maybe people are giving us credit for it. It was the first time ever that we ran it, and it did